Okay, this is week 3 on MyGuestBook. Been updated to the new MySQLi. First thing you want to do is download this config file and the zip file that has the files in it for the lab. And this week you're just basically seeing how MyGuestBook works. You will be creating a simple database with a user, updating the config file, and then that's about it. Creating new users, editing new users as well. So let's go ahead and download the config file. And this has all of the information about the database that we'll create here in a second, and needed in PHP to connect to a MySQL database. Next is a week 3 lab files. Should also be a zip file. Okay. And what you're going to do is, as it says here, you're going to move the config file to in your htdocs and XAMPP. Should be a Web290 folder, labs. Web290/labs, and then you'll download week 3 and put it in. It should already download as a week 3 folder. You might have to rename the download to be week 3, and it's going to be put in the labs directory. So it should end up looking like this. Here's my XAMPP directory in the root of my C drive. htdocs. There's my Web290. Labs. There is the config file. And there's a week 3 folder. And again, when this downloads, you might have to rename week 3, like mine is week 3 parentheses 2. So if I hit extract all here, it's going to extract it as that, which I can do that. There we go. And so that folder there actually should be okay. Once it's extracted, notice it says week 3, and it has the 4 files that we'll need. So I copy that, move that into the labs or in the Web290 directory. So again, XAMPP, htdocs. There's my Web290 for my class labs and homework. Go into labs, put my config file at the root of that. You'll not have these other 2 files. These are what I created for the lab tutorial. So you'll dump it right in that labs folder. My directory is C, XAMPP, htdocs, Web290, labs. That's where you're going to put in the config.php and that folder that you extracted. Let's go and open up the config.php first. You're going to have to replace my name with your name. So first initial, last name. So if you're John Smith, it'll be J Smith, J Smith, J Smith. Everything else stays the same. These first 3 lines are declaring variables for, or 4 lines, variables for the database connection. So you have DB host, DB name, username, and password. DB host is always going to be localhost for your XAMPP testing. If you were to upload this to an external site, you'd have to put local DB host as that external MySQL server URL. dbcon, and by the way, I wouldn't recommend that with this week. Just play with it on the localhost side so you can finish the homework. As time goes on, definitely I do already have podcasts out there to show you how to externally upload your content, including setting up a config file for the database. dbcon MySQLi. This is new on the block. The MySQLi used to be just MySQL. Now they've added MySQLi. And used to you only needed username and password. Now you have to add in the Take it back. DB host, username, password has always been required for that one. The new one is the DB connection. The MySQLi Connect needs now a DB host, username, and password. So the connection here is just that. It's catching the connections of the MySQL server, the username and password of MySQL server. Select database is doing that as well, using the connection string and the database name. Database name in my case is going to be cconcle. It's going to connect here to the database, username and password. And if successful, it's going to select it if my username, password, and database is all correct. Next, you need to run XAMPP. We're going to create the username and database. Make sure you start the Apache MySQL. You can click the admin button to the right of Apache, and it's going to launch the dashboard. Click on PHPMyAdmin. And what we're going to go to is the User Accounts tab. And we're going to add a user account. Put in your first initial last name. Select from the drop down here local. For password, username, first initial last name again. And you do have to type these in. You can't copy and paste. Under database for user account, check both checkboxes. Create a database with the same username and grant all privileges. Grant all privileges on wildcard for that username. Check all on global privileges. And then down at the right, click Go. Now you'll see on the left here a database with your name. And if I click on it, I can go over here to privileges, and my name is in here and your name should be in there as well. And one of the things I'm going to point out is, notice on this where it says database specific, all privileges, no. Edit privileges. Here we could edit the privileges to yes to have data specific, meaning it would only be specific to this database. We want to be global, so we're going to leave it as is. So now the cconcle user has rights to create tables, modify tables, create records, delete records, update records. So let's do this. Go to the labs folder for week 3. And we're going to first go over the index.php. And what this is doing is going over or showing on the first part of this page just a basic HTML form for person to fill out first name, last name, email. The bottom portion is, starting on line 27 here, it's including that config file by going out to the folder before it, the lab folder, and the root of it. Then it's putting in a variable, a statement, variable named check that's going to select that database. And we're selecting from a people table. If check exists, then meaning that table exists, called people. I'm not going to do anything. If it doesn't exist, it's going to create the table people in the cconcle database or in the John Smith database, whatever your name is, with ID, people F name, people L name, people email, with a primary key, people ID, and that primary key is going to be auto-incremented. It's also going to, once it does that, go on and select all people, connect to the query, select all people, and run it, and then finally close that database connection. Now, as you can imagine, the first time through, there aren't going to be any records, but it's going to be 0 records, but the database and the file, or the table will be created, not the database, the table will be created called people, And then down here is going to try to load it into a table. This first 51 through 55 is multiple echo statements to echo a table. It's a 400 wide table, 400 pixel wide table, font size 13. It has some fields in there, first or column fields, first name, last name, email, edit. Then in this while loop here, it's looping the database content until it's empty, until the row is empty. It's going to print out each content of each row into the table until that table is empty. So we'll keep looping record 1, record 2. Each time it loops, it's going to put in a person's first name of that record, last name, and email. It'll also put a link on the last column to edit that record. So that's how the index works. The next one we'll look at is the edit. Take it back. Let's go to the, if we look at the form here, at the top, it's going on the action form, it's going to the contact.php when a person fills out that guestbook form. So let's go there next, the contact.php. What it's doing again, including the config file after the openPHP tag, it's plugging in, creating a insert statement here on lines 4 through 9, or actually 4 through 8. 4 through 7 is the actual query. Inserting into people F name, L name, people email, the values from the screen before of the field F name, L name, and email, and it's going to put in there and run that with this results query, connect to the database, run the insert query, and then redirect to the index page once it does that. Next thing is folks might want to click on the edit link on the record. So we'll go there. When they go to the edit link, or click on the edit link of the record, again it imports the includes the config file. It grabs the ID from the URL that we'll see in a second. Then asks a database some information as far as select query from the people table from that ID, which will isolate just that one record. It's going to run that query here, put it in an array query for the different fields in that record. Then on lines 10 through 17, it's plugging in that data into a form for the user to see. So it's going to be a hidden field is going to be the people ID, which is needed in just a second when they edit this form. The next three are plugging in the echo statement, using the echo statement, plugging in the value for each one of the fields, the first name, last name, and email. If a person changes, say, the last name to something else or the email to something else, hits submit button, it's going to go to the update.php page. Let's go there. The update.php page is pretty simple. It's, again, including the config file. It's going to bring in from the edit page before using a post command, which is going to remember the ID that was clicked on or it was in that record, the F name, L name, and email. And again, it's coming from lines 11 through 16 here. So it's getting the data from people ID, people F name, people L name, and people email. The value it's going to use on the update.php is in the name item in each one of the input statements. So we have ID, F name, L name, and for the email, it's using email. So here, ID, F name, L name, email. And then this statement here is just a SQL statement for updating that table, specifically that record. updating table people, set people the F name to the value for F name, L name the value for L name, email the value for email, where people ID equals ID. Here's going to run that update query, and then it's going to redirect to the index page in 4 seconds. Okay? An echo statement will show up on the page for that 4 seconds while the user's waiting. So now let's go ahead and test the install and the update of the code. Okay, from your web browser, you're going to type in localhost. We know it's in the Web290 folder in our localhost, which our localhost on the file directory would be czamp htdocs would be the file directory localhost. For the web directory localhost, as far as what a user types in to test your website, would be Web290, the root file there. If you copy down on week 1 the template, it should look like this. You click on labs, week 3, it should go to week 3. If you didn't copy down the template, you just have to remember to type in this URL. You could actually just do Web290 labs, and it's going to give you a directory of your labs folder, and then you'll just click on week 3. So right now, before we do anything, I want to show what happened here on the PHPMyAdmin side. If you go back to the PHPMyAdmin, which if you close that out already, you can go back to XAMPP, click on the admin, go to PHPMyAdmin, click on your name, that's the database name, first initial last name. Then go over to Browse and click on Browse. Notice it does a select query here from people, nothing's in there, but you'll also notice there is, underneath your name, a table called people. If I click on Structure, it gives me the structure of that table. People ID with a little key means the primary key, F name, L name, and email. That was all created in the index page when this page loaded the first time. And remember, it happened down here on the check. It's checked and it noticed, guess what, people doesn't exist. So it inserted and created that table in the cconcle database called people with the following fields. So I wanted to show you that before we actually add a record. Go ahead and click on your name again on the database. Click on Browse. And we're going to come back here in just a second. So go back to your website, your localhost website. Go ahead and put in your first name, your last name, email. Click Add Contact. And you should now see a record down here at the bottom that you just typed in. Now when you click the Add Contact, remember it went to the contact.php, inserted the record that you just entered in the form, and then redirected back to the index page. If I click on the edit link, which you can do as well, it'll take me to the edit web page, $ID equals. That's a path by reference that we went over in Works 1 and 2. In order to edit this then, this page needs the record number, which it has right here, which is ID equals 1. If I go to the edit code, you'll notice the first thing after including the database connection is I'm getting the ID from the URL. So it looks for the value past a question mark for ID, and you'll notice it is there. It sees ID, and so the value for ID that it's received should be 1. Then it selects all statement from where people ID equals 1, which is that first record. Blows it up into a query, and then puts it in that form. Now let's go back. I'm going to go back to the Apache PHPMyAdmin. I'm just going to refresh this page, and you'll notice now there is a record in there in PHPMyAdmin. I can also get to it by clicking on my name again, my database name, and clicking on Browse. All right. So let's go back and make a change here. I'm going to say my email now is changed from cconkle to cbconkle. I'm going to click submit. It says update complete. Please wait for 4 seconds and it should redirect, which it did. And remember, that one happens on the update.php page, where the update occurs after, instead of the get one on this one, we're using the post for the ID, because when a person clicked the submit button, ID is included in a hidden field on that form. So when it goes to the update, we're using post for everything, including ID. So it updates that people table with the information I plugged in. The only change here was email, but it's going to use all three anyway, where people ID equals, in my case, 1. Runs that insert state or that update statement and redirects to 5. If you want it in 4 seconds, and shows this message while it's doing it. If you wanted to play with it and change the refresh count, you can do that here. And so that concludes the MyGuestBook for week 3.